Coming up next on Another View, keeping African American boys in school. According to the latest Schott Foundation report, only 47% of black males nationwide graduate from high school. So what are the social, economic, cultural, psychological, and educational barriers that keep black males from completing high school? And what are we doing here in Hampton Roads to ensure that this population does not miss out on the education necessary to be a productive citizen? Our guests from Virginia Beach, Portsmouth, and Norfolk Public Schools share some light on these critical issues right after this news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee, and welcome to Another View. Thanks so much for joining us at this noon hour. WHRO WHRV has embarked on a multi-year nationwide Corporation for Public Broadcasting initiative to improve on-time graduation rates and lower dropout rates. It's called American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen. Each month on Another View, we'll take an in-depth look at issues that keep our young people from attaining a high school education. We will look at the issues from multiple points of view. Today, our focus is on African American males who, unfortunately, as a group, are more likely to drop out of school than any other student group. But there are programs to address this issue, and here to tell us about them is Dr. Esther Monclova-Johnson, Director of Equity Affairs for Virginia Beach Public Schools. Hi, Esther. Welcome.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mr. Kevin Monroe, Principal of Booker T. Washington High School in Norfolk. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Thanks
for
being
having me
here. Thank you. And joining us by phone is Mr. Timothy Johnson, Principal of Woodrow Wilson High School in Portsmouth. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great. Thanks so much for being with us today. Now, Tim, I want to start with you because I want to make sure that our audience is clear when we talk about on-time graduation rates and dropout rates. Can you tell us the difference between the two?
Okay, the on-time graduation rate is something that the federal government under the No Child Left Behind has said that students must graduate within a 4-year period. We call them a cohort. Mm-hmm. So we're saying that when you start in the 9th grade, the clock starts ticking, and you have 4 years to graduate. So it's our goal to make sure that all students graduate within the full cohort graduates within 4 years.
Okay, so we want that number to be high, which means that there would be the majority of the students graduating within that 4-year period.
Right.
Okay. And then the dropout rate.
On time.
And graduating on time. And then the dropout rate.
All right. Now, the dropout rate, depending on, are you talking about the federal government dropout rate? Because, see, it's two things. They have the state the graduation index, then they have the dropout rate. The dropout rate, and as far as the federal government is saying, that the only thing that counts as a graduate is those students who receive a regular or a standard or an advanced diploma.
Okay.
So you have a couple of things going on at the same time. So you have two different things. You have the graduation index, which is what we receive our accreditation from the state. And then you have the dropout rate from the federal government under No Child Left Behind, which says just those students who receive a regular diploma or a standard diploma or an advanced studies diploma count.
Okay, so for the state of Virginia, then, since this is where we live,
we use the index.
And that's what you use. You use the index. Okay, so
right.
So that index indicates, though, students who do not complete their high school education. Is that right?
Right. Well, no, the index is the students who do receive
it.
Right. So, and that's a combination of the standard diplomas, the advanced diplomas, the GEDs, the special diplomas, the IEP diplomas.
Okay, so that's everybody who gets a diploma. And
right.
then everyone else is considered a dropout?
Right.
I see. Okay.
And then now, see, if you have students that are, let's say if you don't graduate within 4 years, but you graduate the next year, how it's calculated is you receive 100 points for the diplomas, then you receive 75 points for a GED. So then they add all of those numbers. You get so many points. Let's say if you have 200 students with a standard diploma, so it's 200 times 100. And then you get however many with the GED. So it's whatever that number is times the GED number. And then they average them together and give you an index.
Okay. So that would include kids then that may take longer than 4 years, but yet they still receive
right, because you get so many points for those students that are still in school who may graduate in 5 years.
Okay.
So you get 70 points for them if they still in school, but the year that they graduate, you get the 100 points if they graduate the next year.
Okay. But our concern today, or one of the major issues of our discussion, are those kids who never make it to the diploma or the GED or anything else, but they just give up on school. And Kevin, from your perspective, because I know Booker T has a reputation of having a high dropout rate, which is something that is not desirable, but you're doing a lot of things in the school to turn that around. Can you kind of talk about where you've come from and what the issues are that you face?
You know, we face the same issues that any inner city school faces. There are a lot of students who, when they come to us, we're the first people to talk to them about college. They don't have people at home checking their homework. They're not surrounded by people who have the same type of focus on education that we're trying to instill in them at school. Having said that, that doesn't mean that they can't be successful. One of the biggest things I preach to everyone is about relationships with our students. Mm-hmm. And our students, more than any other demographic, they're looking for that relationship. They're looking for that positive role model. They're looking for that positive mentor. And we've come over the last few years, the first year I got there, the year before I got there, we had 200 graduates. This past year, we had 313. That's 2 years of holding students' hands, monitoring them every week, mm-hmm. constantly talking to their parents, giving them opportunities to make up work, opening the school on Saturdays, providing mentors. We have several mentoring groups. We have students from ODU. We have students from Norfolk State. We have BTW alumni that all are mentoring. That's a big, big, big piece. Our index ended last year at a 76. You need an 85. We're there now. We've covered that ground to the point where we're right there. We just have to keep on the kids that are here now. We'll graduate 300 students this year. Mm-hmm. Back-to-back years of 300 students. That's huge, but it takes a lot of intervention. The earlier we get to the students, we focus at them on ninth grade. We're looking at their work every week. Mm-hmm. If you're in danger of, if you're at risk, be it because of attendance, grades, or discipline, we're going to know about it. We're going to call you in. And it takes that type of effort constantly to keep them in school. You can't make it easy for them to drop out. Mm-hmm. And I think too often that's the case. A young lady came to me right before Thanksgiving. Somebody brought it to me, said she's dropping out. A lot of family issues, just terrible situation. I listened to her, and every time she says something, I say, well, no matter what you say, you're not going to get me to say that it's okay for you to drop out. Mm-hmm. I said, you're not dropping out. I said, I've seen students with worse situations than yours, and you can do it. I pulled up her grades, her schedule, mapped out a plan. This is what you need to do. But I talked to her for about an hour, but she's still in school a month later. She's still in school and going to class, but that's what it takes. It
takes that intervention. Mm-hmm. Now, Timothy Johnson, you also have an inner city school, and your students face pretty much those same issues that Kevin Monroe was just talking about.
Right.
And you work with them particularly in ninth grade too. What is it about ninth grade that seems to be a tipping point for the kids in terms of whether they're going to stay or not?
Well, one of the things that we have found is that whether or not the students can see the end at the beginning. And we started a new program here in Portsmouth just a couple of years ago where we stepped back to the 8th grade, and most of our students now that are coming to the 9th grade already have 1 or 2 credits where they receive a credit toward graduation in the 8th grade. And then once they get to high school, then they start accumulating other credits. And once you start accumulating credits and students see success, then they say, I can't drop out. I'm too close to the end. Mm-hmm. So what we decided, just like Kevin is saying, we started working with them early, putting in place interventions, monitoring programs, so that they'll know we're watching them. And we watch them. We have a group that may have been targeted. They may be overage. They may have come to us overage. They may have come to us with low reading levels. So we really focus on them to ensure that they experience success. We aligned the graduation requirements here in Portsmouth a couple of years ago more closely with what the state requirements are for graduation. One thing we realized the state was requiring 22 credits, and we were requiring 28.
I see.
The state had no minimum GPA requirement, and we had a 2.0 to receive a high school diploma. So what our kids were seeing is, in the 9th grade, they saw the requirements, even though we want to promote higher standards, but we felt if the state didn't have those standards, we needed to align with what the state had. And once we did that, the students started, they got on board.
So they saw that as a means of attaining the education, as opposed to some who may say, well, if you lower it lower than 2.0, you're lowering the standards.
Right. Well, we actually didn't lower. We aligned with what the state, because the state of Virginia has no minimum requirement GPA for graduation. A lot of people didn't realize that. And in Portsmouth, we had a 2.0. So that means those students, it was a 2.0 cumulative. So that means if you failed the class and received one F in the 9th grade, you had to repeat it immediately because you had just finished that class. So you had to repeat that class. So a lot of our students were stuck in the 9th grade trying to repeat classes so they could build that cumulative GPA to 2.0 before they went to grade 10. Then we had different requirements to move to grade 10, and then we aligned that with what other school divisions were doing. We had 7 credits to go to grade 10. You needed to pass algebra, and no one else had those things. So what we found is our students got frustrated because they couldn't see success, and so they just dropped out. They got older as the next year came upon them. They got older, so then they said, well, hey, you know what, I'm just going to drop out. I can't make that. So once we more closely aligned our requirements with what the state had in place and then began our monitoring process, we immediately, like Kevin is saying, we see now more kids move from grade 9 to grade 10, from grade 10 to grade 11, and subsequently we had about 50 more students to graduate last year ourselves. Our graduation index a couple of years ago was at 61, and last year was at 74. Excellent. So we came that far in 1 year.
Okay.
So, and we've looked at our numbers going into this year, and we're going to be in great shape.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. We're talking about ways to keep African-American boys in particular in school. If you have an experience, or if you have a son and he may be thinking about coming out of school, let's talk about it. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Now, Esther, you're with Virginia Beach Public Schools, and the myth some may have is that everything's rosy because you're in a suburban school system. You have, more middle class, maybe upper middle class people going to the schools, that you don't share the same challenges that Kevin and Tim may have. Yet you have an assessment brief on the African-American male achievement. This is something that is a part of the strategic goals for Virginia Beach.
Exactly. I think with a focus starting way back in 2006, the school board and superintendent, Dr. Merrill, decided that they were going to put this on the table and make it part of the program of work, because there needed to be a way to improve the academic achievement of African-American males who for some reason were not succeeding at the same level as their peers. And so the school district did take this on and started to look at the data, which in reality we had to prove to folks that there was gaps in the performance of children, because they didn't believe it. And what we found was that there were double-digit gaps in many grade levels. There were the number of students who were making and achieving not only graduation and but being part of the advanced studies diplomas, getting those advanced diplomas, taking advanced placement classes. That's all data that we've been looking at for the last few years.
One of the criticisms, as I was reading from the SHOT report, Foundation report, is that African American males in particular are not encouraged to go into the AP courses, and or if they get there, they're not given the support they need to stay there.
And we've made some tremendous strides with that. I mean, we have met the benchmarks and that we've applied. I think what a lot of people don't know is we have almost 17,000 African American male students in Virginia Beach. About 5,200 of them at the high school level, almost 4,000 in the middle school level, and almost 8,000 in the elementary. So what we're looking at is a K-12 continuum, and what this data is telling us when we look at how our children are reading and how they're succeeding in SOLs and achievement and how there's educational success is that there are gaps. There are places where we have to focus, and one is to be able to close that gap from early on, from pre-kindergarten to kindergarten, the reading and the mathematic gap, so that when they get to middle school and high school, they're successful. I know it's very confusing with the graduation index, but what we look at is the actual number of kids who drop out of school in our division, and we had 133 African American male students who dropped out between grades 7 and 12 last year. 125 of them at high school and 8 at the middle school level. So what were the reasons that they were
that's what I was going to ask you. What's going on?
And what we found, achievement is a big part of that. That, of course, their ability to get content, and secondly, that some of them had reached maximum age, that they were overage when they entered in the classroom, and then they disengaged. And there were lots, and we found that the majority of the students who left in the 10th and 11th grade. And what were the reasons for that? So we're digging down into this data to make sure to see what is it that we can do to support children to stay, these students to stay, especially African American male students.
According to your report, though, in the past 3 years that you guys have been measuring this, that African American males show no sign of improvement in terms of the dropout rate. So that's got to be frustrating in the sense that if you're helping them to raise their grades, but yet you still have this group that just won't stay.
And there, as we provide more and more options for our young men in the division, we work with our staff and our schools to make sure that this curriculum becomes rigorous and relevant to them, that they see a light at the end of the tunnel, that there is success for them in this, and that we are here to support and make sure that they make it through.
Just can't give up.
Right, and no one is going to be allowed to fail. I think that's the expectation. We can't just assume that, okay, you're not smart enough to make it. No, everybody needs to be able to make it and be successful.
Okay, Mike joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Mike, you're on the air.
Hi there. Hey, I was just everybody keeps talking about light at the end of the tunnel. I was curious, is there any data to support or negate moving or having ninth grade in high school? So now you have 4 years of high school instead of when I was younger, many years ago, that you had 3 years of middle school and 3 years of high school. Does moving those kids into that environment sociologically, if not academically, set them up for failure? I'll take my answer off the air. Thanks.
Okay, Mike, thanks so much. So, Kevin, what he's saying is that it used to be that you spent 3 years in middle school and 3 years in high school. And his question is, since we've moved ninth grade into high school, are they too young? Are they too immature? Are they whatever? Are we putting them there too quickly?
I think that the issue is with that is that any time the students transition from one grade to another, from one school to another, there's always a problem. If most high schools now have ninth grade transition programs for just that. There's a gap when students take a hit when they go from elementary to middle school. They take a hit when they go from middle school to high school. That's why you're seeing now we're looking at more K through 8 schools. So we haven't studied that in terms of the difference, but anytime they transition, they're going to take that
adjustment period.
We've done a lot to negate that by having ninth grade transition programs over the summer to get them acclimated to the building, to their classes, to extracurricular activities, and that's helped us a lot.
Okay. Taylor joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Taylor. You're on the air.
Hello. Yes, I have a 17-year-old son, Last year, he stayed back in the 10th grade, but he passed his SOL. They kept him back because he missed a lot of days in school. Again, he's missing a lot of days in school. He won't go to school, but he goes to Norfolk Technical Center, and he's doing computers. He passed that, but he will not go to school. So I'm trying to find out, what can I do to get him to go to school? And he's very, very smart. He knows all the material. He just doesn't like repeating it and going over and over and over it.
So you need ways to encourage him to stay in school. Timothy, let me start with you. Can you give her some suggestions?
You know, I hear what you're saying, and for that reason, we have started here in Portsmouth. We made an aggressive effort years ago with our career and technical programs. We do not have a vocational center like Norfolk has, but what our superintendent did is we actually have our career and technical programs in our school. Here on the Wilson campus, we have the early childhood education program, the culinary program, and the nursing program. At Churchland, we have the horticulture, and at Norcom, we have the hotel motel. They're actually in the schools. And what we did is we stopped making it a requirement. We used to have a selected group of students years ago for these career and technical programs. Unfortunately, you do need to pass all of the standards, which are the 4 Englishes, so many social studies, so many sciences, to receive a high school diploma. But we have found if we encourage those students in the career and technical programs, and then we have dual enrollment programs with Tidewater Community College, if they see the connect between college and high school, our students have gone back and improved in the basic English classes, social studies, and those things that you say your son is not in favor of. But you do need all of them together in order to receive a high school diploma, because the state does set the standards. But I think I'm excited that he is interested in that part of education. We just need to come up with a way to get him motivated for the core classes that he does need to get a high school diploma. Mm-hmm. And that's one of our challenges that we work on daily. But we encourage those students in those programs, such as the career and technical programs, that they do have to come back and get the basic education. And once they see that they need that in order to get a diploma and to complete their success, usually they do. So keep encouraging him. I think he'll turn around.
Okay, Kevin, you want to add to that?
That I agree with Tim on a lot of that, and it sounds like he's someone that can definitely be saved. He has interest. He's passed the SOLs. He has interest. Part of the problem with when we look at our data for students dropping out or failing a class is attendance, and then they think the classes aren't interesting. So trying to reach those young men who are looking. He has an interest at Votech. We have to capitalize on that. Listen, I've had kids where you're not going to Votech if you're not coming to the other part. Mm-hmm. And another thing, he's failed some classes. We have a system in Norfolk with a program called NovaNet where we allow for credit recovery. That's a big part of helping potential dropouts. It should be possible for him to retake some of the classes online that he's failed, which he's kind of disappointed because he's a little overage, he's behind. But there are ways to make up those classes without having to actually sit in those classes again. So I think that should be pursued.
And NovaNet, a part of WHRO.
Mm-hmm, yes.
So we're very happy about that. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Maxie joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Maxie. You're on the air.
Hi, Barbara. How you doing?
Okay.
Good. I have a two-part question. First of all, studies have shown that African-American males, they do a lot better in school when they have relationships and a good rapport with the teachers. What type of effort are the various school systems that you have present near Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Portsmouth? What are you doing to improve the teacher-student relationship between African-American males and their teachers? And number two, what type of parental component are you involving in helping these young men to retain them in school? Because student retention, it has to have a parental component also to be successful. I know that there's various backgrounds and a myriad of circumstances that are going on. But what are we trying to do to draw the parents in to be more active? And I'll take my answer off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much for calling. And in full disclosure, Maxie is my husband.
Okay.
But he is also an educational consultant. So, Esther, I want to start with you on that, on the relationship building.
I think that is absolutely key. We spend a lot of time, and our schools are involved in many, many programs that to try to help and build and mentor and support our students during their school day as well, and get involved and get to know them beyond the 3:45 bell. And that's important because once the students feel that you are engaged with them and they feel that someone is out there who cares for them, they're willing to live up to the expectations. Also, working with our staff, we have these courageous conversations about race and student achievement and what that means. Now, some people say it's not all about race, but it is about relationship building and understanding. And when you have possibly veteran staff whose demographic of students in the classroom has changed in the last 10 years, they're seeing students they have never seen before, have to interact with families that they've never had to interact with before. You have to build that understanding and the ability for people to get to know. Parents are key to this as well. And as we develop the activities, in particular like the summit that we're having on January 7th, parents are a key part of that. They're there with their students. They're able to get information so that they can find ways that they can support and get involved at every level.
Okay, and we're going to talk about that summit in just a moment. If you're just joining us, we are talking about ways to keep African American boys in school. My guests today are Dr. Esther Monclova-Johnson, Director of Equity Affairs with Virginia Beach Public Schools, Mr. Kevin Monroe, Principal of Booker T. Washington High School in Norfolk, and Timothy Johnson, Principal of Woodrow Wilson High School in Portsmouth. Lisa Godley, who is our co-producer on this show, has been working on a documentary for our American Graduate Initiative. And she spoke with 4 young inmates at the Tidewater Regional Jail. And one of the things that they kept saying over and over again was, I wish someone in school had just said to me, you can do this. I wish someone had said, we're proud of your accomplishments. I wish someone had said, sit down and do your homework. And they felt that relationship was never there for them. Kevin.
And that's critical because, like I mentioned earlier in the program, a lot of times we're the first people that are saying that to them. I had 2 young men last year who fit that bill, and I tell them I'm very proud of them. Lavanda Clark and Eric Perry, 2 young men who, by all accounts, could have fell through the crack and dropped out. They were lost. They weren't turning in assignments. They were missing days. And I pulled them out. I told them that you're not going to drop out. And I stayed on them. We argued, fussed, and pushed and pulled, but in the end, they both graduated, and they're both going to TCC in January. And
that's fantastic.
That goes back to, you can't make it easy for them. You can't give up. It takes a lot of patience, and a lot of determination. But it's the right thing to do. And I saw those 2 young men last week. I couldn't have been more proud if they had graduated number 1 or number 2 in the class. I was that proud of them because they stuck with it. We believe in each other, and it's that relationship. I preach to my faculty constantly that they'll do anything for you when they know that you care about them. And we have a training. Norfolk is big in training called Capturing Kids' Hearts. And all the schools have teachers that are trained in that. And it works. It's all about building relationships. You have to do that to get the community and the parents in. One of the single biggest things you can do to help a school is get people behind you, get the parents in, get the community in. We're planning on my feeder schools, and Booker T are planning a parent university, should be by the end of February, just to get the parents in there and help educate the parents on what they can do to help us best educate their children.
Tim, the other thing I want to bring up too is, do you think because your students see you, an African-American male, in a leadership role, same thing for you, Kevin, that also helps to reinforce that this is a direction that they can go and be successful?
Well, I would hope so. I spend a lot of time trying to build relationships with all students. I'm in my 7th year here at Wilson, and I've been in Portsmouth for 21 years. I've been around, and a lot of students that I have taught, they now have students here at Wilson. And when I see students, I always try to encourage them. But it's about like everyone is saying, building relationships, but also making students aware of options. The guidance counselor may have already told them about the options, and other people, their teachers may have told them about options. Their parents may have told them about options. But sometimes when I spend time and talk to students one-on-one, they say, oh, I didn't know. And I know they've heard of it before, but because it's coming from me, that light bulb goes on. And sometimes it does make a difference when they can see people that look like them. And so that makes me feel proud. I try to, we have several mentor programs, just like all the other schools, but it's just about sometimes they just need to see people that look like them, that can talk, that can relate to them and say, okay, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Or this is what you can do.
And I think we have to provide opportunities for our young people to talk to us, to listen to their voices, because many times they have so much to say, and we take it for granted that we know what they need, but sometimes they can tell us. And so we have to give them that opportunity as well.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Carl joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Carl. You're on the air.
Thanks for taking my call. Interesting as usual.
Thank you.
I've been a practicing psychologist and school psychologist for many years, close to 50. And one of the things that I hear you saying is true. The other one is that African American students, unlike those who went to Booker T in the 50s and 60s, are not motivated, but they're brilliant. And the school system today does not accept that. If a child is passing the SOL, as ridiculous as they are, then he or she should be able to move on. And sometimes, and I recommend this to private students, take the GED and go on to college, and they excel. I have two who are sitting on the bench now in another state. One is a doctoral program, and they've just sidestepped the structure, which is not conducive to learning today when you guys came up and when I did. And I'll take my response off the air.
Okay, thanks so much, Carl, for your call. Anybody want to respond? Is it the structure of the school system and the way they have to go through school the issue in terms of keeping particularly black boys from succeeding?
What I would say, though, is that we struggle about how do we make this traditional old system of education new and up to date and relevant for our young people. And what happens is do we have the time to sit down and really revamp our curriculum, in order to make it relevant? Are we teaching the skills our young people are going to need to be employed and have careers once they graduate from high school? Do they need to be in high school for 4 years? Can't they make it through the system? And the way information and technology is, they could probably do it quicker, faster, and better if we're not so mired. But we're mired in the traditional system of how we teach.
So we have to work within those boundaries.
Exactly. And so, but that doesn't preclude us having to be able to look at really deeply in our curriculum, and are we meeting the needs of our students, here in the 21st century?
Okay. Graham joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Graham.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
My name's Graham. I used to be a public school teacher at Virginia Beach Public Schools out at Kempsville High School. And prior to that, I was teaching in Scotland. And I do understand that race does play some aspect in this. However, I would tell you that we have exactly the same problem in Scotland, where almost everybody in the high school is Caucasian. We have a problem, a socio-economic problem, where people in lower socio-economic groups drop out of high school without getting the qualifications they need to get a good start in life. So I'm not convinced that this is really a purely racial thing. I think socioeconomics play a much bigger role than you guys are giving it credit for. And I think until, as a society, America and Western Europe too deals with this increasing inequality in our society, I think until that's taken care of, these people that are on your show are great people, and they're trying to help kids, and they're doing what they can for the kids. But let me tell you, when you're in the school day in and day out, it's a tide of poverty, it's a tide of negativity, there's a crisis of parenting. And the bottom line is, where are the jobs for these kids? All the jobs are going abroad. What are they going to do? What are we training them to do?
Okay,
So-
let's get a response from our listeners, and we appreciate your calling in. He brings up a very good point that poverty, Esther, is a key factor also. But when you look at the numbers, still black males still rise to the top in a negative way.
It is a component to, and it's a factor. One is obviously, the different socioeconomic, the ability and opportunity of families to provide the same level of experiences from preschool to enrichment activities to being able to, to take and give the type of educational experiences our young people need to be successful. Even the literacy piece, by how reading books. Do you have books? That's the kind of thing. It all impacts. My concern, though, is that if the children who are sitting in the classrooms are all getting the same educational experience, and it should be related, then there shouldn't that poverty indicator should be dealt with within the classroom as well, so that you level the playing ground for every student that's in. We teach all children.
Tim, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do agree. Poverty plays a major factor here in Portsmouth. That's what I dealt with all morning long. Dealt with 4 homeless cases just today. There is not a lot of jobs out there. Our student parents, they're working in retail. They're working in places where they're cutting back on their hours and they don't have benefits. A lot of kids, we're dealing with homelessness. So I would say poverty is across. I know it's one of our major areas. Our school here, our campus, is about 65% African American, 35% other, and the other, they're just as poor as the African Americans. So poverty is across the board here in Portsmouth, especially at our school here, where we have 35% other, and they're just as poor. And in some areas, they have gaps too.
Okay. Trey joins us from Portsmouth. Hi, Trey. You're on the air.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I just briefly want to just comment on what this caller just called about. And he made a valid point. Obviously, in other locations, in other countries, there are different demographics that have issues. But when we're focusing on the United States of America, it's the preponderance of socioeconomic problems are related to the African American community as it relates to the African American male. Now, when I was stationed here initially back in 2004 or 2005, growing up as a child myself, I grew up without the leadership of a male figure in my home. Me seeing that and knowing that why it's important to provide mentorship to someone, to a specific African American male, it prompted me to take that leadership role. And what I did was I went and joined the Big Brothers Big Sisters program of Hampton Roads, and I mentored a young male. And not only did I mentor him, but I held him accountable. I let him know and gave him the opportunity to advance himself, but I let him know what's expected of him, how to create a successful trail for him, a successful path for him. And even after I left here and was stationed other places, I still mentored him. I took him places. I brought him to my home. He saw my family, things of that nature. But the bottom line is, it's a continuance of mentoring. And we in the African American community need to stand up and mentor others. It's just the bottom line. Once you start mentoring and showing them that you care, that there is a better way, that there is a different part of life than where they live at, that small community, that mindset that they have, that there is something better for them, then they will take that, and that will create the desire to want to succeed.
Thank you so much for that call, Trey. Kevin, you want to respond?
Yeah. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. Back in the time when Newark was voted the worst place in the country to raise your children, raised by a single mom. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. If you find any successful African-American male from an at-risk environment, I guarantee you he can tell you who his mentor was, what man was in his life. May not have been in his family. My 8th grade gym teacher, Paul McPleasant, that was my first. And I still, and I still talk to him. So you can't discount how important that is. And he did it. I can remember him saying, "I'm doing this for you, and you're going to do it for someone else." And I remember driving a young man to college a couple of years ago, full ride, didn't have anyone to take him. And we were talking, I said, I'm doing this for you, and I'm counting on you to do it for someone else. And that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Esther, the African American Male Summit is about mentorship as a part of what you're doing. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. This will be the 5th year in which we're actually holding our African American Male Summit. 5 years ago, Tallwood High School, under the leadership at that time of Jobina Caldwell, who's the principal, who's now the assistant superintendent of high school, decided to put together a summit in which her young men, in particular African American males, could have an opportunity to experience and hear from mentors and role models and leaders in the community, as well as, and talk a little bit about the needs. 2 years ago, this became a citywide event, and now we have all of our 11 high schools participating. And we'll be holding on January 7th at Green Run High School from 8 to 1 the 5th Annual African American Male Summit. It's an opportunity for our young men to hear from keynote speaker Baruti Kafeli, a motivational and educational consultant. They'll hear from career goals, about college prep, about goal setting, about leadership skills. And last Saturday we had about 100 of our young men participate in a retreat to get ready for the summit, which is a very, very cool thing. And to see these young men light up with these new responsibilities, where they'll be facilitating the younger students who'll be attending. It is for grades 8 through 12, and it's for Virginia Beach City Public School students and their parents. The parents are invited to come, and there's a series of workshops that'll be provided for the parents as well. We'll have exhibits and displays from all of the universities, surrounding universities, business, community, and sponsors.
So
if
someone wants to participate, what do they need to do?
They can call my office at 263-6964 to get additional information, or they can register through their high school or middle school guidance office and call the local high school.
And you said now these are for kids, males who are in Virginia Beach schools,
right?
But sometimes other school districts bring kids too.
We have been approached, yes,
okay.
and there may be some arrangements we could make, but it is because we had almost 600 students participate and parents participate last year. We have to be a little cautious about opening it up, but it is an opportunity for this year. It's really key because we are also commemorating the 25th year of the holiday, the national holiday, and the unveiling of the King statue in Washington D.C. And the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity will be participating and being part of the ceremonies for the summit. Okay. And so it's a wonderful event, and it's an opportunity for our young men to hear from a wide range of mentors and people who are engaged.
Okay. I'm going to try to get one more call in real quick before we run out of time. George joins us from Chesapeake.
Thanks for taking my call. Was listening to your show about 3 weeks or a month ago, and you were discussing black people's response to some political issues, and had quoted a poll that was taken, and I want to first of all reinforce what
Sir,
your
George, I'm sorry because we're really short on time. Do you have a question specifically about today's topic about keeping young men in school?
Yeah, when you have a guy on your show who's saying that people who make $20,000 a year or less are lazy, and you're a young man who comes from a family where his mom might be struggling with 3 part-time jobs to make that much money, no matter how educated he sounds on the radio, he loses all credibility.
Okay,
when he says,
I know exactly what you're talking about, and we will address that right now. What George is referring to was our roundtable discussion a couple of weeks ago, where one of our panelists made the comment that sometimes you just have to let kids go. I don't believe, Kevin, that you believe that there is no child that needs to be let go, but that we need to fight to try to keep them in school as much as we can.
You can't let them go, and I think that's the easy approach. Every kid has some value. You can't dictate a young man's life by what he does when he's 16, 17 years old. My younger brother, 4 years younger than me, ended up with a GED. He had some issues, stopped going to school. I put him in a program, went in the military for 1 year, went to college and graduated from college before I did. And I'm 4 years older than him. He's doing fine. So, it's value in not giving up on him. You just got to find that right fit for find out what that young man is interested in and work on that.
I agree. I think, you have to always have and give them hope.
Exactly.
That there's an opportunity there for them, that they have the skills to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, I'm going to give you the last word.
Yeah, I was thinking, my God, leave no child behind. That means no Bob, no Dominique, no anybody, no Timothy, no Kevin.
That's right.
Leave no child behind.
Oh, gosh. Thank you so much for joining us. That is Mr. Timothy Johnson, principal of Woodrow Wilson High School in Portsmouth. Timothy, happy holidays to you, and thank you for being with us. And Kevin Monroe, who is principal of Booker T. Washington High School in Norfolk. Keep on doing what you're doing, and we'll have you back, coming back. Happy holidays to you also. And Esther Monclova-Johnson. There, I got it.
There you go.
Happy holidays to you.
Thank
and
you so much.
to encourage people, the number again, is it 263-2964?
6964.
6964. 263-6964 if you're interested in the African American Male Summit in the city of Virginia Beach. And we'll be right back.
And cards are here. My world is filled with cheer and you. This Christmas, and as I look around, your eyes outshine the town they do.
And welcome back to the program. They're from right here in Hampton Roads, and they sang their way into the hearts of the judges and the nation on the NBC program X Factor. I'm talking about the singing sensation For Sure. These talented vocalists recently visited the WHRV studio, where they not only talked about their amazing journey, but entertained the Another View staff with some impressive vocals. Our Lisa Godley has their story.
'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you worth.
What's going on? I'm Jesse.
I'm Alan.
I'm Darius, and we are
For Sure.
The last few months have been a whirlwind for this talented group of singers. They've gone from only getting together during the summer to perform at the Virginia Beach oceanfront to wowing the X Factor judges and the nation. 3 of the 4, Jesse, Alan, and Darius, met singing in the choir at Salem High School in Virginia Beach. After they graduated, they decided they needed a 4th member and found Brandon. They auditioned and got the job singing at the oceanfront for Beach Street.
When we auditioned for the Beach Street venue, they said, you guys need a name. We did not have a name at the time, so we decided we were going to try to be foreplay because it was 4 guys and we were just playing around. They rejected that and were like, no, that's not family friendly. And we were looking for another name, and they were going back and forth. And Day said, well, what about For Sure? Because we're singing at the oceanfront and shore as in shore beach. So we were like, oh, yeah, that works.
And you know that
then they learned that a show they'd been watching in Europe was coming to America, Seattle, Washington, to be more specific.
So to tell the group, hey, guys, let's go audition. It was kind of a long late night talk. But somehow God worked it out. Everybody got the money. We got there, and we hadn't seen each other in a year. Since that previous summer. So it had almost been an entire year since we had seen each other. And so I think Brandon missed the memo to get there earlier in the day. So he got there, I think, like 6:37 at night.
And we had to prepare.
And we had to practice 5 songs.
All the songs the night before the audition.
So we slept for maybe an hour and then went straight to the audition room. It was an insane experience.
Their performance of the Boys to Men hit End of the Road simply wowed Simon Cowell and the rest of the X Factor judges.
To the end of the road.
It was really surreal. The whole time we were doing it, it never really felt real. And I don't really think it ever felt real till we actually got to see it back on TV.
For me, it was crazy because I always would feel like I would be starstruck or out of place, but I never felt like that there. It always felt like I finally belonged.
Then came the hard part. Getting cut.
Everybody took it different. Like, Dave was extremely positive. Jesse was calm. I was really angry, and Brandon was really sad.
Brandon took it the hardest.
Brandon did take it the hardest.
And the hardest part about being eliminated was that we had to come home and couldn't tell anybody for
a month or so.
I think it was like 2 months.
Almost 2 months.
Yeah, everyone was like, "Oh, I can't wait to have voting parties for you guys," because by that point the promo video had come out the week that we were there.
Their newfound celebrity continues to open doors for Foreshore. Not only are they recognized just about everywhere they go, but they just released their new single, Your Time, now available through iTunes.
Sunshine in Seattle, you shake my world up like LA. And when I lay my head down at night, thoughts of you keep me awake. See, there was just something about you that left me speechless. And when I tried to write about you, you ripped the words right off the page.
Foreshore had this to say to others interested in following in their footsteps.
The hardest thing to do, especially when you're younger, is actually knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for. So if you always have an anchor of what your moral values and your musical integrity is, you won't get pulled and drifted away. So knowing that is key. Always practice. We wouldn't have been able to get together and do what we did in less than a day of rehearsal if we hadn't practiced and invested so much time. You have to drill and really work at your craft.
If you know you're supposed to do something, without a shadow of a doubt, that's what you want to do like the rest of your life. Don't listen to what everybody else is saying. If you want to work for that and you know you're supposed to do that, just keep doing it and it'll come eventually.
Because people tell us every day, oh, boy bands are dead, you guys can't blah, blah, blah. Like,
we feel a different way.
And so this is the route we want to take to get where we want to be. So we're going to keep doing it till the wheels fall off.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And Foreshore, 4 young men graduated from Virginia Beach Public School. So there we go. And before we finish today's program, I want to tell you about a special event happening in the community. Mark your calendar for the 28th Martin Luther King Jr. Community Leaders Breakfast, Monday, January 16th, 2012 at 7:30 in the morning at the Founders Inn on the campus of Regent University in Virginia Beach. This annual event is sponsored by the Urban League of Hampton Roads and will honor community leaders Maurice Jones, who is the first African-American publisher in the history of Landmark Media. They're the folks who published the Virginian Pilot newspaper. Norfolk State University Professor Emeritus Dr. Curtis Langley, Ms. Julie Hill, who's recognized for her work with the Lost Boys and Girls of Sudan, and Mae Breckenridge Haywood, who led the African-American Historical Society of Portsmouth in its restoration of the Portsmouth Community Library. For more information, call the Urban League at 757-627-0864. Next Friday is the day before Christmas Eve, and in place of Another View, we'll bring you special holiday programming. We'll be back on December 30th with the Best of Another View, a look back at the most interesting conversations we've had over the past 6 months. On behalf of producer Lisa Godley, audio engineer Perry Smith, Aisha Hawk, who's on our phones, I'm Barbara Ham Lee. We wish you the very best this holiday season, and we'll see you in 2 weeks with the Best of Another View. Happy holidays, everyone.